Taliban fighters surrounded Kabul and are seeking the unconditional surrender of the central government. The death toll rises to 724 victims after a powerful earthquake in Haiti. An explosion at a warehouse killed at least 28 people and burned around 80 more in Lebanon. Hello and welcome to teleSUR. I'm José Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the south. A major 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck Haiti on Saturday. The quake hit the west of the country with its epicenter about 8 kilometers from the town of Petit-Trou-de-Nepi, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Heavy ground shaking can be expected in the western peninsula, and serious damage to structurally weak buildings and other infrastructure is likely to occur. The tremor was felt all over Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, and the Dominican Republic. Images on social media have shown local residents organizing rescue efforts after the earthquake. Residents of Port-au-Prince fled their homes after a second 5.2 magnitude earthquake was registered in the same region a couple of hours later. In 2010, a similar earthquake killed more than 200,000 people and caused extensive damage to infrastructure and the economy of Haiti. Residents of Les Cayes in southwestern Haiti spent Saturday night in tents at a football field after the devastating earthquake. Families that lost their homes or found them too unsafe to stay in recovered a few belongings and brought them to the field. The disaster added to the plague of Haitians who were already grappling with the coronavirus pandemic, a presidential assassination, and a wave of gang violence. Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry has declared a state of emergency after the powerful earthquake that struck the Caribbean nation.
The government decided this morning to declare a state of emergency for 1 month following this disaster. We call on the population to show solidarity with each other. Let's avoid panic in the face of this earthquake. All the government and the structures of civil protection are mobilized, and we ask the population to redouble their efforts and precautions, especially if there are aftershocks.
Meanwhile, the heads of the country's Civil Protection Agency has announced the death toll of 724 victims as the nation begins counting the cause of the disaster. And Latin American leaders have voiced their solidarity with Haiti. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro expressed solidarity and support with the people of Haiti, and that Venezuela is willing to provide all possible collaboration for the aid of the people affected by the earthquake. Also, Bolivian President Luis Arce tweeted, "Our condolences for the victims and the hope of recovery for the injured. We are with you, Haitian brothers." Meanwhile, President Pedro Castillo emphasized the Peru's government will provide the necessary support to Haiti in order to advance in unity and fraternal integration. And Pope Francis has also expressed his solidarity with the people of Haiti hit by an earthquake on Saturday, calling for help from the international community.
In the last few hours, a strong earthquake has occurred in Haiti, causing numerous deaths, injuries, and extensive material damage. I would like to express my solidarity to the dear people who have been hard hit by the earthquake.
In other news, the government and opposition leaders of Venezuela have held a new round of negotiations in Mexico. After the arrival of the participating delegations to Mexico, the dialogue between the Bolivarian government of Venezuela and the opposition began this Friday with the aim of building an agreement for peaceful coexistence, reconciliation, and the strengthening of democratic values. According to the director of the Norwegian Center for Conflict Resolution, Dag Nylander, among the items on the agenda to be discussed during the dialogue are political rights, electoral guarantees, the lifting of coercive measures, the restoration of social peace, and the return of assets illegally blocked abroad. Meanwhile, Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard said his country has always been committed to peaceful solutions and dialogue.
On the other hand, tell them that Mexico will, as always, be a respectful, supportive host. always willing to collaborate, to cooperate, so that the dialogue will be successful. I have no choice but to give you the best and also to tell you that on behalf of the community of Latin American and Caribbean states that we have just met on July 24 here also in Mexico City on the anniversary of Simón Bolívar, to wish you the best and to tell you that the whole community of Latin America and the Caribbean and the whole world asks your eyes and best wishes.
The representative of the Venezuelan opposition, Gerardo Blay Perez, thanked the international support and assured that a transcendent process begins for Venezuela.
They have been built in this initial pendular of exploratory phase by its own nature reserve the sufficient base for us to begin the most solid process for which we have transcribed. The support of the international community has been instrumental in making this happen, support which we appreciate and which we ask to continue from now until we reach an agreement.
The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, welcomed the beginning of the new stage of the national dialogue between the opposition and the Venezuelan government that is taking place in Mexico under the observation of Norway.
En la Ciudad de México.
In Mexico City, with the support of the government of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his foreign minister, Marcelo Ebrard, in the theater of the Association of Archaeologists and Anthropologists of Mexico City, the Memorandum of Understanding was signed between the legitimate government of Venezuela and the opposition of the so-called United Platform of Venezuela, an agreement that took months of dialogue between the most extremist opposition of Venezuela and the legitimate authorities of the country.
Entre el gobierno legítimo.
President Maduro also thanked the community of Latin American and Caribbean states, CELAC, for its support in the national dialogue between the government and sectors of the Venezuelan opposition.
Las palabras
The words of Mexican Foreign Minister Ebrard, of solidarity, respectful, and of brotherhood, giving Mexico support. And also something very important, we have received the support of the 33 countries of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC. CELAC is back and is stronger for the peace in Venezuela.
vuelve más fuerte por la paz de Venezuela.
More news in a minute, stay with us. Welcome back. Taliban fighters have surrounded Kabul and are seeking the unconditional surrender of the central Afghan government. On Sunday, the insurgents entered the outskirts of Kabul, but apparently remain outside of the city's downtown. Meanwhile, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani has promised to take responsibility for the security of the people of Kabul and punish anyone disturbing the law. Civilians, fearing that the Taliban could reimpose the kind of brutal rule, such as eliminating women's rights, have rushed to leave the country.
There is a clear need that the National Directorate of Security, alongside the police and the Afghan army, takes the responsibility of the security of all the citizens, as per my order to the Defense Minister and the Interior Minister. It is our responsibility, and God willing, we will carry out the responsibility in its best manner.
Afghan Interior Minister Abdul Sattar Mirzawal has said that there will be a peaceful transfer of power to a transitional government after the Taliban ordered its fighters to hold back from entering Kabul.
The safety and security of this city is guaranteed. There will be no attack on the city, and there will be a peaceful transfer of power to the transitional government. It's our responsibility to protect by all our force.
Hundreds of people have headed to Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport seeking to leave Afghanistan after the Taliban offensive. Tickets for flights out of Afghanistan has been scarce ever since militants took control of several of the country's provincial capitals over the past week. In the past days, Afghanistan's second and third largest cities, Herat in the west and Kandahar in the south, have fallen to the Taliban, as well as the capital, the southern province of Helmand. The offensive comes after U.S. President Joe Biden ordered the complete withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan by August 31st.
With the situation we have right now, there's no guarantee of where the future of Afghanistan is leading to. The fighting is getting worse day by day, and the opposition are advancing. I used to work with foreigners, and I was not safe. Every day I had the stress of what is going to happen with me.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said his country will work with Pakistan to stabilize the situation in Afghanistan to stem an influx of refugees from the war-torn country.
Turkey is facing a growing migration wave of Afghans transiting through Iran. We will continue to make efforts to bring stability to the region, starting with Afghanistan. Pakistan has vital duties to bring peace and stability to Afghanistan, where conflicts have intensified recently. Only in this way can we dispel concerns that growing instability is triggering a new wave of immigration from Afghanistan.
At least 9 people have died and many injured after a truck attack in the Pakistani city of Karachi. 20 people were riding in the truck returning from a wedding ceremony when the attack happened. An initial investigation suggests that attackers followed the truck and then threw explosive devices at one side of the truck. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack, and the motive is still unknown.
People were coming after attending a wedding party when the blast occurred. We initiated the investigation to find out the cause of the blast, and I can confirm 9 people have died in a blast.
An explosion at a warehouse where fuel was illegally stored killed at least 28 people and burned around 80 more in northern Lebanon. The Lebanese Red Cross said a fuel tanker exploded and its teams recovered 20 bodies from the site in the border village of Leil. In a statement, it said it evacuated 79 people who were injured or suffered burns in the blast. A Lebanese military official said the explosion occurred after the army confiscated a warehouse where about 60,000 liters of gasoline were stored, and the order was to distribute the fuel to residents of the area.
What happened yesterday, the revolutionists found 60,000 liters of fuel at George Rashid's house. So they told the army to seize the fuel and distribute them to patrol stations. They stayed from the afternoon until 2 a.m. and kept delaying. The army withdrew and the people started beating each other up. George Rashid's son showed up and opens fire at them, and this is what happened.
A mob set on fire a property near Tripoli, thought to belong to the owner of the warehouse that exploded. The large group gathered and threw missiles at the house, which caught fire and had smoke pouring from its windows before security forces attempted to control the situation. In Thailand, thousands of citizens held a protest demanding the resignation of the Prime Minister. Thousands of people demonstrated in Bangkok in motorcades of cars and bicycles with several mobile rallies, demanding the resignation of the Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha over his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. The protest comes after a week of clashes between the demonstrators and police, who have increasingly used rubber bullets, water cannons, and tear gas to control the protests. Torrential rain have triggered a mudslide and more floods across Japan, leaving 3 people dead and forcing the evacuation of dozens of residents. A mudslide early on Sunday hit a house in Okaya City, burying 8 residents. 3 of people were dead when rescue workers found them, and 2 others were injured, according to the rescue team. By Sunday, dozens of people in flooded areas in the southern Kyushu region, as well as Hiroshima, were rescued. More than 500 homes around the country had been damaged by floods and mudslides.
I heard a cracking sound, so I went out on the balcony. It was stinky, and then the mudslide came all the sudden.
And we have more stories coming up after one last break, so stay tuned. At least 8 people have died and dozens injured after a bus crash and flip over early Sunday. According to authorities, the crash happened near the Szabadát-Tijan on Hungary's M7 motorway between the capital Budapest and Lake Balaton at around 5 a.m. local time. A video released by the Hungarian National Disaster Agency showed firefighters pulling passengers out of the wreckage of the overturned bus. In addition to 8 deaths, another 8 people sustained serious injuries and 40 had minor injuries. Protesters took to the streets of France for the 5th consecutive weekend to oppose the country's health pass now required for everyday activities. In France, individuals currently need a health pass to access cinemas, cafes, or trains. The push by French President Emmanuel Macron for the health pass, which is a proof of either vaccination, a recent negative test, or recovery from COVID-19, has sparked angry protests across the country. So far, an estimated 46 million French people have at least one vaccination, and just under 39 million people are fully vaccinated. The country is on track to reach its target of 50 million people vaccinated at least once by the end of the month.
I am against the health pass, not necessarily against this vaccine. Even if we can ask ourselves questions about the fact that it was put into circulation very quickly, we can ask ourselves questions. I find this health pass an infringement on freedom, a disproportionate measure. It's segregation. I am not against vaccines, like the tetanus one. We agree there's mortality. I got stung 10 times, no problem. I am even a bit of a hypochondriac, and now you have to stop messing around. COVID is a disease that affects fragile people. The issue is the places in intensive care. There are 8,000 of them. Who is it that has been cutting the places for 15 years now? We are asking ourselves this question. The yellow vests.
Several hundred Israelis have gathered in Tel Aviv to protest against calls by the authorities for all citizens to be vaccinated against the coronavirus. The protests have been growing in number in recent weeks as the country's top officials have increased calls for citizens to get vaccinated amid a rising number of infections. Israel was one of the world's leaders in vaccinating its population early this year, but in recent weeks it has seen a surge in cases of the Delta variant, even among those who are already vaccinated.
We are here to say that we're not willing to participate in a medical experiment. We're not lab rats. Nobody is the right. We didn't give the right for anyone to take us and use us for a medical experiment. Nobody told us that we participate in an experiment. No medical organization in the world has approved this third shot that you took today. And if you want to take it, that's fine. That's your choice. But there's no reason for coercion on anybody else.
2 of the last known survivors of the 1921 race massacre in Tulsa, United States, stepped back on African soil for the first time in Ghana. Viola Ford Fletcher, a 107-year-old woman, and his brother Hughes, who is 100 years old, are now in Ghana with their families. The Tulsa race massacre took place between May 31st and June 1st, 1921, when mobs of white residents, some of them given weapons by city officials, attacked black residents and destroyed homes and businesses of the Greenwood district in Tulsa. Up to 300 African Americans were killed in the attack. The visit is part of a homecoming campaign organized by social media platform or Black Truth.
I think this is one of the biggest historic African diaspora that has come back to us. And you know, when President made the announcement on Beyond the Return 2018 in DC and celebrating Beyond the Return in 2019, we never thought of having one of our siblings who was forcibly taken away, generation from that, to come out 107 years old and have the passion and interest to want to visit Ghana, not only by herself, but also bringing the younger brother along who is 100 years old.
It's my first time on the continent of Africa, and I'm just thrilled to be here. My family is happy to be here, and I hope to make friends and learn a lot.
A suspected Christian militia attacked a convoy of 90 Muslims in Nigeria's Central Plateau state, leaving at least 22 people dead. The victims had just partaken in the annual cirque ceremony, a prayer session practiced by many Muslims. A security operation saved 21 people at the scene and led the arrest of 6 suspects. Northwest and central Nigeria have for years struggled with violence between many Muslim nomadic ranchers and Christian farmers over control of resources, water, and land. In Mexico, indigenous communities have commemorated 500 years of resistance after the fall of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. With traditional decorations, dances, and pre-Hispanic rituals, native communities from all over the country honor their ancestors and remember the importance of preserving their cultural heritage, as it has been preserved in spite of modern times for more than 500 years. The Aztecs settled in Tenochtitlan in the center of the Valley of Mexico in 1519, and on August 13, 1521, the Spanish conquistador led by Hernán Cortés and accompanied by other indigenous people defeated the Mexican civilization, putting an end to the Aztec Empire.
It gives me a feeling of nostalgia, as it makes me reflect on what this day was like 500 years ago, and I think it is a very good reason to commemorate it.
It is like strengthening our culture. It is very important to be able to identify oneself, to know the identity of each people, and if we know where we come from, it becomes clearer where we are going.
We come to the end of this news brief, and remember you can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm José Daniel López. Thank you for watching.